Well, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. It might be a different time for you, it might be a different introduction for you. We're doing another late night post game show here at Sticks in the Six, episode three of these post game notes. And I've been kind of liking these late night episodes where it's just me kind of spewing a few thoughts from the game. It's a quick 20-minute epi for those who want to tune in and kind of get a different perspective. Maybe you watch the game alone, maybe you watch the game with the boys or your friends or whatever, and it gives you kind of a different look at some of the happenings of the Maple Leafs 3-1 win in this case over the Seattle Kraken. Before we get to any of that, though, we are a proud member of the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook. And there's a big game this weekend. This ain't the little itty bitty teeny tiny bowl. This is the Super Bowl. This is Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns is key to hoisting the Vince Lombardi trophy, and you have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 186 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Well, as I mentioned off the top here, it was a 3-1 victory for the Toronto Maple Leafs over the Seattle Kraken. Like I said, a very early morning show here as we do the post game notes / late night show. If you're still up, still eyeballing what's going on around the league. For those of you who have been watching, keeping track of what's been going around the league, obviously you saw that this or last night Alex Ovechkin scored once again for the Washington Capitals. The great chase continues as he's now just 16 shy of breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time NHL goals record. How are you feeling about that? How are you feeling about Ovechkin being just 16 goals away from breaking the all-time regular season goals record, and might I add, by an undrafted player? An undrafted player in Wayne Gretzky. Um, Ovechkin just 16 away, as we said. Also worth noting with Anthony Stolarz, we will talk about this in just a sec. Anthony Stolarz started the game tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which means Matt Murray has found himself reassigned to the Toronto Marlies of the AHL. He's been kind of bouncing up and down throughout the last few weeks here with the unknowns with Stolarz, the paperwork that they have to do with bringing Hildeby up and sending Hildeby down and bringing, Matt Murray up and sending him back down. So, it's been quite the ride for Matt Murray this season as well. Outside of that, we are here to talk about the 3-1 win. We're here to talk about what the Leafs did well, what they didn't do well. It would have been nice to see Stoley get a shutout in his return to the lineup. First game since December 12th. It's been quite a ride for Anthony Stolarz getting back into the Maple Leafs lineup after having some procedures done on his knee. Yeah, it's what did you think of Stolarz's first game back? What did you think of Stolarz's First game back, 3-1 win. He made some big saves. Obviously, the big glove save off Brandon Montour early on. You could see the flexibilities there. He seemed controlled. He seemed relaxed. He seemed like a goaltender who had, all of his wits about him, but felt comfortable again in being on the ice. And it seems as though the Leafs gave him that extra little bit of time to kind of get back to as close to 100% as he could get. I know we had the conversation on yesterday's full episode of Sticks in the Six that, maybe you hold him out till after the Four Nations Cup and then you give him that extra time to get back. I'm not going to lie, I didn't mind the idea of playing him tonight, and then now, he does get another 2 weeks to kind of rest up and see how that knee heals up following his first game back. Regardless, he gets the win. His 18th appearance of the season, his 10th win of the season. He made 26 saves on 27 shots. Obviously, a 1.0 goals against in the game, a 963 save percentage. That puts him at 208 for his goals against. He's now second in the league behind Connor Hellebuyck among eligible goaltenders. And he sits atop the NHL with a 929 save percentage. So he basically picked up exactly where he left off, which is a great sign for the Leafs. Again, we talked about it at the beginning of the year. This is a duo that we're going to look heavily upon to steal games come playoff time, especially if the Leafs' top players can't get the scoring done. That seemed to be a little bit of the case today, although we saw Marner get on the sheet. We saw Tavares get on the sheet. We saw Matthews get on the sheet, all with apples. But the scoring was spread around a little bit. So the game opened up early on. No goals called off to start the game this time, not like it was in Calgary the other night. But definitely a winnable game for the Toronto Maple Leafs as Philip Myers opened the scoring for the Toronto Maple Leafs early on in the first period. He scored his first goal of the season, his first goal in a Leafs uniform, and it was his first goal since 2022-23 season. A long time coming from Philip Myers, and we've seen progression in his play recently. We've seen Philip Myers look a lot better as of late. There's a lot of conversation as to the Leafs maybe keeping him around long term. He seems to have fit in well when he does get in the lineup. Little shaky early on in the season. He played just over 14 minutes tonight. The second lowest among all defensemen for the Leafs outside of Simone Benoit. But he was able to get it done. He had a penalty. He had a goal. He had 4 shots on net, which was the highest of any defenseman for the Leafs tonight. He had a block shot. He had 2 hits. He was getting it done right across the board. He was playing well in his own zone. And it paid off for him. It paid off for me. Like I said, he got the goal early on, put the Leafs up 1-0, and really set the tone early for what was expected from the Maple Leafs. It's worth mentioning in a big way, on that goal, Mitch Marner recorded his 500th career assist. He became the fastest Maple Leaf in franchise history to reach that milestone, topping Borje Salming, who did it in 775 games, and Daryl Sittler, who did it in 803 games. Mitch Marner took just 629 regular season games to reach the 500 assists mark in his career. Pretty remarkable when you think about what this kid has done. Pretty crazy to think that he is potentially, while he will hit free agency this offseason, but the Leafs will obviously likely try to get something done now, knowing where the cap's going to be as well. Former 4th overall pick in 2015. He has 210 goals, 500 assists, and 710 points in just 629 career games. So pretty remarkable what he's been able to do over his career. That's Mitch Marner, former London Knight. For those who watch the show, they know that I'm here in London. So former London Knight, former Memorial Cup champion as well. Outside of that, Matthew Knies, Bobby McMann both stayed hot on this road trip. Matthew Knies extends his goal streak to 3 games. Bobby McMann extends his goal streak to 3 games. Bobby McMann, a West Coast boy, has scored in every game of their West Coast swing thus far. One more on Saturday if he can get it done in Vancouver as well. Another winnable game for this team. Matthew Knies also surpasses the 20-goal mark for the first time in his career. He's 21 goals this season, now starting to show that true power forward type of play, and it's exciting. This is something that the team needs on that in the top six. They've got two of them now in Matthew Knies, and Bobby McMann seems to be taking and elevating his game to that next level as well. We talked about an undrafted player off the top of the show in Wayne Gretzky. Bobby McMann, another undrafted player who, in his own words, mentioned that, at one point in his career, he just wanted to get to the show. He wanted to be a guy who could maintain a full-time spot in the NHL. Now sees himself as a top six forward for this Maple Leaf squad, and very quickly approaching 20 goals as well. He could, with him and Marner potentially hitting 20 goals this season, that'll give the Leafs 6 20-goal scorers early on. I guess I won't say midway through, but 3/4 of the way through the season. That's pretty exciting. Matthew Knies, obviously, his ability to be at 21 goals so far this season, especially with the injuries he suffered. This is a guy who played nearly 19 minutes tonight, was a +1, 2 shots, 1 block, knows how to get it done in his own zone. He's a big body, doesn't mind throwing it around. And worth noting, Bob McMann played just 12 and a half minutes. He had 3 shots as well, 3 shots as well, and was able to get it done on the power play. So the Leafs power play once again get it going. 1 for 3 tonight against the Seattle Kraken. Their penalty kill once again 5 for 5, including a 6-on-4 late in the game with just over 3 minutes left when Matthews was called for a high stick on Brandon Montour, but really it was Brandon Montour's stick that had popped up into his own face. Again, questionable calls. That we go back to the officiating. We always talk about why we want officials to be accountable at the end of the game and be available for the media. This is why, because all of these reviews that we have in the NHL, all these offside reviews, all these major to minor to not being a penalty reviews, there should be zero room for human error at this point, and yet there still is. Why do we have the reviews? That's an ongoing conversation that we're always going to have on this podcast. Regardless, the Leafs were able to kill that penalty again. Like I said, 5 for 5 tonight on the PK. This is what you want to see from this team. You want to see the power play clicking. You want to see the penalty kill, finding a way to shut things down. Especially over the last 3 games, they've had 3 2-man advantages go against them, and they had 2 goals scored against them again in the Calgary game the other night. Tonight they were able to shut down that 2-man advantage even late in the game, and Stolarz again standing on his head, 26 saves on 27 shots. The Leafs against Seattle this season, they were able to sweep the 2-game season series. Worth noting, Seattle not having the best season of their short existence. As for the Leafs, they close out their West Coast swing in Vancouver on Saturday night, and they will look to make it 4 wins on the road. Look for Bobby McMann to score again, as he has been hot on this road trip. As for Marner, it was good to see him back in the lineup, get his 500th assist, push the envelope on now 71 points, and get ready for the Four Nations Cup. The Leafs will be looking to take on the Canucks on Saturday, as I mentioned. I did mention that it is a winnable game, as the Canucks have seemed to dwindle a little bit with the recent trade of JT Miller. They do still hold down that second wild card spot in the West, just 2 points up on the Calgary Flames. two Canadian teams battling it out for that third spot. Not a good way to go with Canadian teams. Let's get those Canadian teams in there. Let's get the cup back to Canada this season. In the East, the Toronto Maple Leafs still sit 1 point back of the Florida Panthers in the Atlantic with 2 games in hand. And now, I know we talked about it yesterday, the Ottawa Senators were sitting third in the Atlantic Division. It is now the Tampa Bay Lightning with 2 games in hand on the Ottawa Senators. They sit at 62.6 back of the Toronto Maple Leafs for second in the Atlantic. And behind them in the wild card spot, it is very bunched up. Ottawa with 62 points. Detroit with 61. Columbus right there with 60 points. So it's going to be a fun run down the stretch here for the East playoff spots as we continue to watch that, see where the Leafs will end up, see where the Leafs will play the first round series. But right now we're focused on a 3-1 win against the Seattle Kraken. Another post-game episode here at Sticks in the Six. We're going to try and do this a little bit more often. I want to hopefully get a little bit more interaction as we continue to do this. Maybe get some comments, maybe get some questions as we go through this. Really looking forward to having some people get on here and start some more conversation as we continue to do these post-game shows here at the Sticks in the Six podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. Outside of that, you can tune in weekly. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, you name it. We are there. Make sure you download our episodes. Make sure you follow along. And if you're on YouTube right now, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Let's help this podcast grow. Let's continue to create that beautiful hockey community here at Sticks in the Six and the Hockey Podcast Network. Until next week, folks, go Leafs go.